Hello and welcome to the Law Podcast, brought to you by the University of Stirling Law Society. I am your host, Jedd France. Today I am joined by Euan, Neil and Holly to reflect on the semester as a whole and discuss all of the events organised by the Society. So welcome everyone to the final episode of the semester. Today I'm joined by our President, Euan Stainbank.
Hi Jedd. I'm Euan. I'm a fourth year LLB student at the uni as well. I'm, as Jedd says, the president of the Law Society. I'm also doing a few things. I do competitive debating. I'm also a student union officer. I do quite a lot, which has made the year fulfilling, if slightly strangely hard.
That's a pleasure to have you on, mate. We've also got our Vice President, Neil Brannigan.
Yeah, hi Jedd. Thanks for asking me to come on. Pleasure to be here as always, and well done on the podcast. It's really taken off. But yeah, looking forward to this.
Well, thanks very much, mate. I appreciate that. And just as a disclaimer, Neil's actually been involved in an intense exam for the past 24 hours. So if at any point it sounds like he's ready to die, then please excuse him. But also we do have Holly Conway, who is our marketing officer. Holly, do you want to say hello?
Yeah, hi, I'm Holly. I'm in third year studying the LLB. And yeah, thanks for having me on, Jedd. I'm very excited.
Perfect. It's great to have you all here. I'm sure it'll make for a very good episode. I'm looking forward to having a discussion. So for everyone listening, we thought it would be a good idea for the last episode before the Christmas break to kind of have a bit of a semester review where we look over the events that we've hosted over the last few months. And there's actually quite a lot to get through. I knew it was been a busy semester, but it's been even busier than I first anticipated. So it'd probably be best if we just jump straight in. So this first event was actually prior to the university semester starting. It took place on the 11th of September 2020, which was our legal tech conference, which I believe was my proper first event as part of the society. But yeah, this involved numerous presentations from industry professionals, and we also had a fundraiser as part of the event for the Scottish Association for Mental Health, where we actually managed to raise £270 of an initial £100 target, which is pretty sensational. But Neil, would you like to kind of do a bit of a background explanation on the Legal Tech Conference? Because I know it was your baby over the summer.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. The Legal Tech Conference kind of came as part of a bit of a broader society innovation, which was the website, of course. So it was kind of our first time dipping our toes in the kind of online events and also offering tickets through the website. Over the summer, it was a bit hectic to get the website together in time for the event going ahead. Planning for the Legal Tech Conference happened, I believe, way back at the end of July. So it was one that was coming for a very long time. We had Sarah Blair, who was the first presenter to kind of get on board with it. And from then on, she was great because once we had her, we kind of grew it. And we managed to get Christy Gaumond from White & Case in London, Alan D. Stewart, who's been great. He also supported us through a few other things. Rob Mars at the Law Society of Scotland and others. But like I say, it kind of came part of this wider society approach to online academic events with a bit of fundraising, which all seemed to go pretty well.
Yeah, like I said, I think that was actually the first event I really remember being part of, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was only part of it for a little while because I remember I had to go to work in the afternoon, so the actual kind of content of the conference is a bit blurry because I remember I was literally on the call with my webcam turned off whilst actually getting dressed for work, which made for quite an interesting experience. But Euan, am I right in saying that you were actually involved in a bit of hosting for that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it was about a couple of weeks beforehand Neil sort of approached me. Me and Neil have known each other since first year. I've never been on Law Society committee before. I'd been involved in a few of the events, but I'd sort of got into the habit over the summer, especially in lieu of like any formal work placements, of going to a lot of webinars, speaking to a lot of industry professionals, and I really liked the idea as a core thing. I was quite interested in the field, especially considering it's one of the fastest growing developments, I think, for a lot of law firms. So Neil knew that I had some experience in sort of presenting a few events. I've done quite a lot of public speaking events. I've been sort of drafted in by quite a few people around the uni at that point, and I sort of came along and helped out because it's a very sort of difficult thing to manage a Zoom call. You might not initially think of it as quite a straightforward thing until you actually start thinking about it. Like Neil had to control when the speakers could talk, making sure that anybody who was admitted had actually bought a ticket for the session. So I think my role within that was to just present the speakers, ask questions, basically facilitate the audience. If anybody had a specific question to ask one of the speakers, I was the one who call them out, make sure that I was managing it properly, whilst Neil was sort of working on making sure it was the best possible event. I really enjoyed it. It was really insightful in a way that I think was very much tailored towards, I think, what Stirling students wanted. Like, as opposed to a lot of these webinars that are hosted by firms or are hosted by sort of larger law schools, you might not have, the specific questions that you're thinking about from a sort of Stirling student approach. But we definitely had people, I think, getting quite enthusiastic about the topic. And also the fact that we had one of our students who then became one of our committee members, Megan, talking was fantastic because it just gave us that chance to get, how do we start approaching, researching and thinking about these specific topics as we're building our commercial awareness. Yeah, I loved the event. It was great.
Yeah, I think it was very successful. I remember the turnout being very impressive, and like I said before, the fundraiser for Sam H, hitting almost £300 of our initial £100 target it's very, very good work, and I think that really kind of laid the foundations to kind of kick on from there and have a really successful semester for the society as a whole. So yeah, following on from the Legal Tech Conference, 10 days later, we had our annual general meeting, which I don't think we need to say too much on. I'm sure everyone here had a great time since we all got elected, so it couldn't really have gone much better. But I was actually impressed with the excellent turnout that we had from different society members. I remember how many people were there, and it was actually really impressive and kind of blew me away in terms of how many people were there and were going to be voting. So hopefully that kind of stands us in good stead moving forward into the next couple of years. And we'll have some more committee members to come on in the near future. But actually, the day after that, on the 22nd of September, was the Lawyers versus Judges Give It a Go pub quiz, which was obviously my first event as a committee member. So I've got quite fond memories of that, sitting down, having a drink, meeting everyone for the first time. I really enjoyed it. I was a bit nervous kind of going into it, not going to lie, because it was more kind of social, personal, chilled out feel. Obviously, the AGM was kind of more formal, academic focus, where everyone's kind of got the professional hats on and trying to make a good impression. But to sit down and have a drink and have a bit of fun with the rest of the committee and other members was really good. Has anyone got any positive memories from the Lawyers versus Judges Give It a Go pub quiz? I'm pretty sure it's probably very firmly in the back of the memory now.
I think it was very different because obviously it was all online, and we would have loved to have met everybody in person, but it was good. I mean, Claire's done a great job all year of organising really good socials, but I think that was a really good idea, the Lawyers versus Judges. And it was just really nice, I think, just to see some faces and not in the formal setting as like the AGM was, in more of an informal, friendly way.
Yeah, and I didn't even do too well on the quiz, but I still managed to have a good time, which was actually quite fun. But yes, moving on. Another couple of weeks later, it's really, as I go through this list, it's really become apparent how many events we've had throughout the semester. It's actually crazy how busy we've been. But yeah, on the 6th of October was the Drinks and Discovery social. So another social event arranged, like Holly says, by our wonderful social sec, Claire Welsh, who's obviously already been on the podcast. So a special shout out to Claire for all the amazing events that she's put on for us this semester. Now, I don't really remember this one too well because I had to bail relatively early since I was working early the next morning, although I do remember it was fun. Pretty sure it might have involved some karaoke from a certain vice president, if I'm right.
Yes, my karaoke has become quite popular, or maybe popular is not a good word. Perhaps infamous would be a better word within the society. But yeah, I mean, it kind of, when me and Euan were especially in first year, we did a lot of karaoke together. So we've got some good experience in that field. But again, another good social setup by Claire in a very difficult time. And kind of Claire took over the social secretary role from me when I essentially just got bored of making social events because I wasn't very good at them. And the difference Claire's really brings a whole dimension to that of kind of fun and entertainment. And couldn't have many people better for the job.
Absolutely. I'd agree if I could just jump in here. I think the socials have been I think the first one that you mentioned there, and then going on to the second one, I think by that point we'd already became quite familiar with each other, because we had a lot of plans and a lot of initial real enthusiasm for the events. And I think the socials were very much a good, not a break from that, but sort of an affirmation of that to an extent. Like, we actually all start, chatting away socially. Like, if anybody's putting up a social media post, everybody seems to be, chatting away with each other now. And I know because not everybody knew each other initially. I know that I barely knew either yourself, Jedd, or Holly before coming onto committee, and now I know you guys pretty well from having worked on it. I think it's been really good, especially in connecting with members that we might not have had the chance if they just decided not to turn up to socials. I think it's made us a bit more close knit and a bit more intuitive in working together. Because I think perhaps a fear factor that I've definitely seen working in organisations like this before is that some people who don't have a personal relationship with the other person are a bit afraid to sort of ask them something, or a bit afraid to sort of bring them in to work with them. And I feel like that's just completely dissipated. I feel like everybody on committee largely and everybody in the society who's been turning up to a lot of these feels comfortable chatting away to us. Like, I had a first year messaged me last night just asking for a couple of exam tips going into an exam, and I don't think I would have had that without the actual social collaboration side of this.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think we've kind of had a lot of mainstays throughout the kind of social calendar, if you like, in terms of the social events we've had. We've had a lot of the same faces turn up who we've never seen before. And like you say, Euan, when I came onto the committee, or when I ran at the AGM, the only person I really spoke to was Neil, who kind of gave me the encouragement to go for the position in the first place, which was great. And I feel like because we had the meetings every Tuesday, you were regularly in contact with each other. And I remember at the start when we all got elected, everyone just kind of came together. Everyone was sending friend requests, reaching out. And it seems like there is a really kind of good family feel on the committee, but not just on the committee, across the society as a whole. And it's been great to kind of see some new faces and being able to kind of speak to people on a personal level rather than just kind of in an academic sense. So yes, that was another very successful social. And the week after that was probably one of our larger events, which was the Future Trainee event with Dennis Viskovich as part of BUCAC. And after that, we also hosted Neil Campbell, who is managing legal counsel at RBS, who came on and spoke to us the same night about the O-shaped lawyer group, and kind of spoke about different things to do with kind of emotional intelligence in the workplace. And it was quite a refreshing talk to hear about. And as part of that event, we also ran another successful fundraiser, which this time was for Strathcarron Hospice, which I know myself and Euan will feel quite closely at heart. Me being a Denny boy and Euan being from Falkirk, we both spoke about how Strathcarron Hospice kind of have helped us and helped our families and close friends throughout our childhood. And we actually managed to raise a very impressive £272 for them as well, which was great. But Neil, I'd just like to hand over to you to kind of give us a bit of background on the event, because I know that you were very much involved in organising it and getting Dennis Viskovich involved.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of didn't get Dennis offered, to be honest, to come and do the event when I was doing a wee bit of teaching for one of his programmes through BUCAC. And I think we'll get on to talk about BUCAC a bit later. But in terms of the event, Dennis really wanted to kind of provide the initial insights into how a kind of busy commercial law firm operates and the sort of things that they expect from their new trainees, especially in the realm of commercial awareness. I think that a lot of people perhaps found it as a little bit of a reality check, because Dennis is quite direct. But in all honesty, his knowledge is amazing. I've learned some really important lessons. My commercial awareness has definitely increased since then, and I hope that people who came to the event got a similar benefit out of it. But, just kind of on to Dennis, it's good because he really offers his time. I don't know if he gets remunerated for that time. I assume that he maybe does. But look, he's, providing things to students that they could never get otherwise. And he provides it for free. And that event was completely free for our members, which was great and definitely worthwhile, I would say.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good event. Like you say, I remember you and I, Neil, kind of attended a similar presentation from Dennis during the summer towards kind of September, maybe end of August time, which was very similar in what he was talking about. But it was very insightful. It was very useful for me. It really kind of broadened my commercial awareness because going into this semester, I was only really just at the beginning of learning what commercial awareness was and what I should be doing to kind of broaden my horizons in that regard. So it was definitely beneficial for me. I think I remember you asked a question of Dennis, which we won't go into, but how did you find the event? Did you enjoy it? I'm pretty sure you took some lessons away from that.
Oh, absolutely. When Neil says it was a bit of a reality check for people, I don't see that as a negative thing. I think I know that there's been a lot of diverse opinions about this, but I found Dennis to be one of the most helpful people or resources we've ever had at this society. I think he managed to just give people a new way of thinking about things that will be directly applicable to the career they want to go into. I'm aware that there's a lot of different areas, and I think the area he was talking about was most directly commercial law and corporate law. However, when he was making people think about one specific transaction, I believe it was between a Finnish and factory getting Chinese resources into Britain through a product transaction, essentially, supply chain. Making people think about the different legal issues under that was a very good example in showing how commercial awareness is applicable. It's not just disparate bits of information. I think one of the brutal responses we might talk about, I don't think brutal is the right word, I think one of the very direct responses he might have given was to somebody who thought commercial awareness is reading the newspaper. It's not. It's how you apply that information to that specific scenario in order to understand the legal issues that will be going through an entire transaction, where you make the money, where you add the value into that transaction as a commercial lawyer. I know that I think it was Dennis refuted my question, which was, I think, quite a sloppily structured one about interview techniques. I think I only asked it because I think the room was sort of drying up of questions at that point. But I felt that response was very helpful, and supplemented by actually going and reading into it has given me, I think, a very permanent, insightful bit of interview advice. Then we went on to have Neil Campbell, who was also fantastic. With the O-shaped lawyer stuff, I really enjoyed also having Neil along. I think what his approach that he brought to it was definitely interesting, because I think far too many people are just looking at like traineeships, don't actually think longer into their career, and if they want to work in-house. And I think Neil really brought that interesting perspective to that, and he definitely showed how you need to diversify your skills, because essentially none of us are going to be leaving even our diploma years ready to be fully fledged lawyers, like pushing for partnerships and things. But we need to have and understand the skills that we have and how that is going to be applied within the application process, where we can show our potential, where we can show our competency. And as somebody who perhaps might have a bit more experience doing other things than perhaps all achieving academic excellence, I was really happy to hear that, because I think it's really important within the industry to understand it is a person-to-person business. You're not trying to hit a specific, you're not trying to get like a double first all the time within your essays. When you're a lawyer, you're trying to actually connect with that person and bring them a solution. So overall, I'm not going to say it was our best event of the year, because that would be impossible to pick, but this was definitely one of them that was up there, because it was a non-stop night of just like taking information in and thinking of how to use it. And I think it definitely had value for me, and I think the feedback I've got definitely seems like it had a value for a lot of others.
I think that sums it up perfectly well, Euan. I think there's not much is left to be said on that front. Like you say, I think Neil Campbell from the O-shaped lawyer group was fantastic for me from a personal point of view. The way he was speaking about emotional intelligence and kind of speaking to someone on a human basis and kind of getting to know the human that's behind the job role and the job title and all the fancy professional stuff that comes with being in such a kind of high pressure job. Getting to know the human behind it and trying to connect with them, like you say, is something that probably doesn't get spoken about enough. So to have him along was fabulous to hear him speaking about that. Perfect. And following the future trainee event, I think it would be quite fitting to mention BUCAC, which I won't go into too much detail about because I'll hand over to Neil to kind of give us a bit of background, because I know that Neil was very much involved in the BUCAC process, and kind of give us a bit of background as to what was involved there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, when we were first contacted by BUCAC, it came at a bit of a strange time in the summer where we'd received numerous kind of invitations to multiple different programs and events, and I think luckily turned down them all. But BUCAC kind of came back to us and said, hey, we think this is worthwhile. We had a call with Dennis, and yeah, I'm really glad that we did end up participating. One of the things I was really, I suppose, proud about was the fact that we managed to get, I believe it was around 75 or so Stirling students signed up. And when you consider that Stirling's LLB population is only around a couple hundred or so, to get that many people was fantastic, and I think reflects on how much of a reach we've had this semester. The individuals who are lucky enough to get to round 4 of the competition, so again, it had a big impact on everyone's commercial awareness, but those who managed to get to round 4, I believe we've managed to secure for them some kind of interviews with various partners at some law firms. One of the firms is Bellwether Green, and the other one was Stewart & Co., which is managed and directed by Alan D. Stewart, who we had for the Legal Tech Conference. So again, a lot of help there. And just, I suppose, a shout out to Tika Slittle and Fraser Crombie, the ex-president of the Society, for helping us kind of run the BUCAC round 4 semi-final. So yeah, it was a great event, and I'm really proud that we were involved in it.
Yep, and I've actually had some feedback from one of the solicitors who we had as a prize for round 4, who's had our phone call with one of the winners, and she said it was a very engaging, very interesting 1 hour phone call, and she says that the participants are going to go on and do really well. So yeah, shout out to everyone who participated and the winners as well. So yes, moving on to a week later, literally as I look through this list, every event is no longer than 2 weeks from the one previous, which is crazy to see how busy we've been, considering we are still law students, with a number of us, not myself, obviously, as I'm a second year, but a number of us are fourth years trying to write dissertations and getting ready for the next stage of our kind of academic careers, going to the diploma or different jobs. To have this many events and be this busy on top of your studies is very, very impressive. So yes, Euan, I'll hand over to you, because the next event was on the 20th of October, which maybe gets forgotten about sometimes. I kind of forgot about it until I was looking through the kind of academic calendar. It was actually our collab with the Debating Society, which I personally attended. I wasn't part of the debate. It was the first debate I'd actually went to. And the main reason I went was because one of my friends, Holly Thomas, was taking part, which I thought was very interesting, and I was actually kind of blown away by how much I enjoyed it. So Euan, would you like to just kind of give us a bit of background to that event and how it came about?
Yeah, absolutely. So this was sort of one of the initial things I wanted to do, and was in my manifesto when I sort of ran for president, is sort of open us up to the community a bit more. I think what we've shown with the Law Society this year is that we're a fantastic resource for students, but there's a lot of other resources across campus that I think are very useful. And I've been a member of the Debating Society, like I've been in the Law Society since my first year. So, and I've always found that a very good place to develop my sort of oratory skills. So I decided with my friend at the Law Society, Jorge, who's the president there, that we had scope to do a collaboration. So essentially, I think the debate was, it's completely slipped my mind now, but I do believe it was something to do with civil obedience. That's really bad. I came up with the topic, but I can't remember it. Yeah, it was the moral benefit of civil disobedience. And we had sort of time for preparation. We had Megan, one of our mooting counsel, and Holly Thomas representing the Law Society. I believe Megan was proposing and Holly was opposing the motion. And then we had sort of a mix from the rest of the debating society. I think it was one of the debaters, Clemens Zizek, who closed out the debate for the proposition, and it was myself closing it out for the opposition. And I actually felt it was really good. I think we had done quite a lot at that point, and I think it was the night before, a couple of nights before, as you said, that we had the future trainee event. So I understood why attendance was down, but I felt for people who were there, and especially people who've been getting involved with our mooting program, it was really beneficial because Holly spoke very excellently. Like all of her points were very much data driven in a way that can sometimes be a bit uncharacteristic of just general, even academic discourse sometimes. Megan's points were very good as well. I felt, and I've worked with Megan in this capacity a few times, has that sort of debating experience as well. But I know Holly's been very enthusiastic to throw herself into mooting and does have a lot of experience in other areas. So I felt the Law Soc really turned up that night. And when we had the pub quiz later that I was presenting, perhaps without I would say Claire's excellence for writing pub quizzes, it was only the second one I've ever presented. I felt it was fun, but I think within the context of the week, I think everybody was just starting to get a bit shattered. But I felt for people such as myself who really like arguing and really like public speaking, or as Neil might say to me, the sound of my own voice, I think it can be really fun, especially and a bit, energy gaining to be in that environment. And I definitely felt that. I think we had about 20 people in the room. It was a good chance for people to sort of meet. Maybe something that could have done with its own standalone week, but I think considering we had everything going on, I felt it was a fairly decent event. Perhaps, as you said, Jedd, a wee bit forgettable because it was definitely sort of overshadowed by something really fantastic and really applicable. But I mean, I'm not sure. You said you enjoyed it, so glad we could at least provide that additional bit of value.
Yeah, like I said, it was the first event of that type which I'd been to, and I didn't think personally it was something that would kind of tickle my interest. I really just went because I wanted to see what it was about, and I knew Holly was taking part. I just kind of wanted to see what was kind of going on in that realm. But I was surprised that I was sitting there and I was really gripped to my laptop screen, and I was really paying attention to what was being said. And it's great to see how animated people get in that capacity and how passionate they get for what's pretty much just a made-up argument. It was great. I really, really enjoyed it, and I hope it's something that we can continue into next semester. But the week after that was not an event as such, but on the 27th of October, which I thought was quite a good milestone for us, was we were invited on to kind of speak to the Brig, which is the student newspaper at the University of Stirling, about all of our fundraising efforts and how we've kind of adapted to the online world and amongst the whole COVID pandemic and how many events we've been putting on. And I know that we've had quite a bit of praise from other societies around the campus for how well we've managed to adapt to the online world. And since it's not an event as such, I don't feel like we need to go into too much detail about it. If you want to read the article, you can do so. Just Google Stirling Law Society Brig article and it'll come up. It's also on our socials and stuff. So if you want to read it, you can. It was great. It's a very, very big piece, which I think is very impressive, just detailing how much we've been up to this semester, just all our fundraising efforts and stuff. And also a special shout out to our fundraiser Nadine as well, who took part in that. And I'm pretty right. Am I right in saying that it's actually ended up being featured on the Stirling University blog? Because I'm sure I've seen a couple of days ago an article which was very similar popped up on the actual official university blog. I don't know if you've noticed that, Euan.
Yeah, well, firstly, shout out to Rachel Swan, who wrote that piece. It was fantastic, and it was really good working with her. But yeah, we were in constant communication over the week, just making sure all the points were accurate. And then she sent to me the article a few days later, saying it was going to be put on the university blog because the university likes to promote sort of societies doing things that are productive in that sense. And I think, considering it's not a massive blog, it doesn't get posted in a lot, but it's definitely sort of a pick of the creme de la creme to an extent of what's happening at the university. I was really happy to see that as well. Not to get into too much detail, because I'm aware Brig have their own sort of position on this, but I did see that quite a lot of places did want to promote that message, and that was also really good to see. the extent of them doing that fairly and contacting Brig beforehand perhaps should have featured in their decision to get our message out there.
Yep, perfect. I think that sums it up amazingly. Euan, it was great to see us featured on the Brig newspaper, and it's great to see us see the article being published on the university blog, which is something I wasn't expecting. And it was actually a very pleasant surprise when I read it. So like you say, shout out to the Brig writers for getting that out there. Moving on the 5th of November, we're into November now, which is, you'd probably think we're into like February or March time with how many events we've had. But yeah, start of November was another social. I'm aware that we've spoke quite a bit about the socials, and Claire's had her praise for all the amazing socials she's had. And she's organised as social sex. So we don't need to go in too much about it. I just want to point out the fact that I managed to win the bingo and get a £10 Amazon voucher, which, if anyone's interested, managed to pay for a new face mask, which is about as exciting as things get right now. So yes, moving on again, on the 16th of November was an event that we've actually had a podcast about with Claire, episode 3, I believe it was, of the show, talking about mental well-being, which was another event organised by Claire, which is an absolute surprise by now. But from a personal point of view, I thought it was amazing. It was very insightful. It was great to hear from a wide range of speakers. But I just kind of want to give Holly the floor right now, because I know she gave a really good talk at the event, and I just want to let Holly kind of give her thoughts and her reflections on what was yet another amazing event organised by Claire.
Yeah, so when Claire came to me about the event, obviously she asked me to speak, and I was like, yes, of course I will, because mental health is something that I'm really quite passionate about, and I do feel like often, don't get me wrong, like the university does promote it in some sense, but I do feel like it sometimes takes a back seat, especially for law students. You know, I feel like our mental health does take a battering sometimes with all the deadlines and all the work that we have to do. So yeah, I think that Claire coming up with the idea for that, it was really great, and I feel like those who attended really found it useful and beneficial. I think Claire did a good job in getting a variety of speakers, so that we had people from every year group, and we kind of had people who had different struggles. So we weren't like always hearing from the same kind of perspective. But I think that it was, I anyway personally felt like it was a really comfortable space. I just felt like I was really able to open up and share like my experiences and the struggles that I've had. And I know that Euan spoke, and I think he definitely felt the same way. But I don't know, I just feel like it was one of my favourite events I've attended as part of the society. I know it wasn't obviously a legal event as such, but I just felt like for everybody's mental well-being and their mental health, it was really important and really valuable.
It was something totally different to what we've kind of got used to over the semester, because it's easy for us to run through these events right now and everything seems fine. But at the time, we had so many events going on over the initial like 6-week period or whatever it might have been. And a lot of it was, you know, commercial awareness focused or networking focused. It was very much like trying to boost your CV, trying to boost your networking skills, and basically helping you move forward with your career or your academic studies or whatever it might be. So to have something from a totally different perspective, like we spoke about in the podcast when Claire came on, to just focus on mental well-being, because obviously right now with the whole COVID pandemic going on, everyone's going to be struggling. Most people anyway will be struggling. And it was great, like you said, to have multiple different speakers on from different perspectives. It was very insightful. And I'm sure Euan doesn't mind me saying this, but myself and Euan even had to turn our cameras off because we had tears in our eyes. It was amazing. It was very emotional. And again, shout out to Claire for organising something that was that important. So yeah, this was a busy week for society, because that was on the Monday, the 16th, and then on the 18th, or the Wednesday, was the Need to Know networking event, which is a personal standout for me. It's quite hard to pick them, but this is probably my top 3, because I feel like this was the event that I kind of grew a lot in confidence. I was put in a situation where we had multiple different industry professionals in attendance who were there to speak to people like me, being a law student at Stirling. They were there to meet us, ask any questions or offer any advice. And I thought it was amazing to get to speak to so many different people from different areas in the industry. And personally, from the podcast point of view, I've managed to book one guest on the back of it with the potential for a second, and managed to schedule an event for the beginning of next semester with another one of the parties. So 3 people are helping me out in my kind of position as academic coordinator, which was great. But I do just want to hand over to Neil because, again, I know that Neil has managed to organise another professional academic event for us. So Neil, would you like to just kind of explain the thinking behind that?
Yeah, okay. Well, the Need to Know Networking was a joint collaboration event between us and the committee at Abertay, who we've arranged a couple of events with as part of this, trying to broaden out the scope of the society to actually get in some communication with other societies, which is something we've never done before. But, the Need to Know Networking, it's self-explanatory. I think Holly chose the name, and it's kind of aptly chosen. And it was basically just a time where people could, get on Zoom, hear from some speakers from various law firms, but also do a wee bit of networking, which was definitely something different. Managing the networking was quite a challenge. I'm not going to lie. It was moderately stressful because we had, representatives from Thornton's, Ashurst, Burness Paul, Lindsay's. We had other people as well, ex-students like Khadija from Keogh's and Kyle Dalziel, who also came along. So it was there was a lot of pressure there, not just for me, but also for those who attended. No one's going to lie and say that networking is something that comes naturally to people. It's always a bit of a challenge. But, I think maybe doing it online is perhaps in some ways easier. And I do remember, some people like Umar Ali from Stirling managed to get around and kind of talk to everybody. And Jedd, I think yourself as well, got to talk to pretty much everyone who was there. And all in all, I think we had about 10 representatives from those law firms. So I think it was a big success. I honestly don't think it could have been any bigger just because of the nature of the online. But yeah, hopefully it's something that we can do maybe every year because I think it definitely is kind of replicatable in the future.
Yeah, I think just following on from what you said, Neil, I think it was a really great event just because I've attended like webinars and live lectures and things before, and I think for a lot of people it can be quite intimidating to ask in front of such a wide audience of people like questions and things that they maybe want to know. So I think the fact that you introduced like the breakout rooms, I think was a really good idea because it meant that people were split into quite small groups, which means they probably felt more comfortable asking what they wanted to ask.
Yeah, exactly. And it was maybe a good idea for the attendees, maybe not so much of a good idea for me. But look, I think that one thing that definitely came out, and I think comes out of a lot of our events, if anyone's listening and, he and Han over whether they should join the society, people at that event got to speak one-on-one to partners from and graduate recruitment officers from top law firms in Scotland, and also, as I really emphasised at the event, not just any law firms. I chose the law firms very specifically, especially Burness Paul and Ashurst were 2 firms that I organised, and I was really keen to get them involved because I like how the firms operate, and I'm sure that anyone who came to the event would certainly have noticed that they got a lot of one-on-one time with those speakers. You weren't just a number. You definitely could differentiate yourself from the crowd.
Absolutely. If I could just jump in here, I would definitely say it was very good. It was a very diverse range of speakers as well. In terms of being able to actually talk to somebody one-on-one in the breakout rooms, like, we definitely shouldn't understate how valuable that was. I know that we started running a wee bit late during it, and we were sort of restricting questions to the breakout rooms. It was definitely valuable because that connection and being able to ask the specific question you have, like I think now, but famously in the committee decided to spend about half the time speaking to Douglas Roberts from Lindsay's because he is a practitioner in sports law, amongst other things, and being able to ask direct questions about what I've done in my own research and attempting to understand the industry I want to go into, being able to talk to somebody one-on-one and sort of go back and forth. I know we had a bit of a conversation about the Israel Folau case over in Australia, not an immediate Scottish law issue, but we were able to actually have a discussion about the real passion and sort of reminding ourselves why we want to get into this industry to a certain extent. Because I feel like sometimes if you're sitting down in a class and you're struggling with something, or something seems quite academic, actually being able to connect with the people you'd be able to, you want to eventually work with, the people that you aspire to work with, will give you that extra kick of motivation. And especially when it comes to applying, as Neil says, networking comes naturally to nobody. The amount of times I've tripped up my words attempting to impress somebody, especially in my first couple of years of doing it, it's not fun. But the only way that you can really get through that and become very competent and start providing value for people is getting out there and discussing. And I think it was a really good chance for that. So definitely well done to Neil, who's the principal organizer in that, and it was good to work with the Abertay Law Society as well.
Well, I'm sure it's great for Neil to hear how much everyone enjoyed it, because again, like that, Holly and Euan, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like Holly says, the breakout rooms were a really good feature. It was great to have that one-on-one time without being in a one call with like 50 to 100 attendees, and you're kind of being put on the spot. Like, do you have a question? You maybe don't want to ask it in front of that many people. To have that kind of one-on-one time with someone who's a director or a graduate recruitment, it's not something you can get easily, and it was something that I really wanted to kind of make use of and take advantage of. I didn't want to come away from it thinking I was a bit too shy there and didn't kind of push myself and didn't kind of make the most of the opportunity. So again, massive shout out to Neil for how well it went, for organising it, getting so many impressive individuals and firms in general on was great. And not to forget, we also held another fundraiser as part of that event for Shelter Scotland, to actually have the premises in Stirling right across from my flat. So it's something I see every single day. And we managed to raise another impressive sum of £255 for that event as well. So 3 fundraisers already by the end of November, which was very, very impressive, and something I'm sure we're all proud of here on the committee and the society in general. So the day after that was something I'm sure not many of us on the committee are familiar with, but myself and Euan actually met with a lovely gentleman called Dumi Senda about a Shepherd and Wedderburn Career Insight event for BAME students. We met with him on the 8th of October, and I'm sure Euan can back me up when I say that Dumi's energy and his enthusiasm for his work and what he was doing was really infectious, and it was amazing. So yeah, Euan, I know you kind of took the baton on that front, so would you like to kind of provide a bit of insight into what that event was about?
Absolutely. So Shepherd and Wedderburn decided to recruit Dumi, I think, for the specific task of getting up, attendance at their BAME event for future lawyers, which was run on I think it was the 26th. Yeah, you said it was that week. So I think, we met with him in October, and definitely he's a guy who's very impressive. He's an Oxford graduate of a master's program in diversity and inclusion, I believe, and he works as a consultant, essentially allowing organizations to make sure that their diversity practices are top notch. So Dumi approached us. We decided, and I think it was in every newsletter I possibly could get it into, we did have a few students attend the event, and the feedback I've got has been largely positive. I think in terms of the day, I can tell, especially during essay season, it was quite long and it was a big commitment. However, I think it's really important for us, and I do have a couple of ideas in the works on this front, to make sure that we are pushing for diversity, because I think it is something that perhaps in a industry that can be very corporate and commercial, there is definitely a lot of scope to do a lot of work there, making sure the organizations we work with are thinking about this and teaching people of the importance of it. And I think overall it's something that I would definitely like to do again. Shepherd and Wedderburn are a very impressive firm, so I think it definitely gave us the chance to sort of open up our connection with them. And it definitely opened up the chance for us to potentially do more with Dumi, next year or at any point in the future, because it was definitely good to have that initial meeting and sort of kick off that sort of approach from us, making those sort of events routine rather than exceptional, is definitely something that I would like to push for in the society. So yeah, definitely an excellent opportunity that I think we took to the extent we gave it enough exposure to it, but it was a very discussing with firms is always a very niche event. So I would definitely like to see us, broadening the scope of events such as that in the future.
Yeah, it was great to meet Dumi in the first instance, and then I'm glad we managed to provide that opportunity for a few of our members to go and have the opportunity to speak to such a credible firm like Shepherd and Wedderburn about a very important topic. So it was great to kind of, put people, we're kind of like the middleman in that regard. Like, we met with Doomy and then we kind of put our members onto the event. We didn't have much to do with obviously the running of the event and stuff, but it was great to at least point people in the right direction and kind of get them involved. Now, on the 23rd of November, which I'm sure everyone can remember because it was such a big day, was something that was very important for me. It was a podcast launch. It was something that took a long time to get going. It definitely took a lot more research and kind of planning than I initially anticipated. It was very intense, but so far in the first couple of weeks, it's been sensational. The feedback's been great. We've had some great responses from people in the industry, like solicitors. We've also had a few lecturers get in touch from Stirling University and say that they're impressed. So it's great to kind of have that kind of praise from people that you respect and kind of look up to in the industry and at the uni as well. And at the time of recording, I do have some statistics. So right now, the podcast has been listened to overall just shy of 400 times in 12 different countries. And that's just from the Open in 2 weeks. So that's great. It's kind of, I had high ambitions and high expectations at the start anyway, but we've managed to even surpass my own expectations when I was planning this out, and we've managed to be featured in the Scottish Legal News newsletter and on the website as well. So it was great. It's been going absolutely fantastic, and really looking forward to pushing on next semester with that as well. Now, moving on to the 27th of November was one of our smaller events. I don't think we need to focus on it too much because the turnout wasn't great, but we had the Freshers pub quiz. The turnout, like I say, for the Fresher pub quiz wasn't great. We only had a few freshers turn up. I think it's been kind of one of the struggles this semester for the committee and the society in general, is trying to get the first years involved and just trying to meet them and try and help them as best as we can. But we did manage to get a few involved. Some of the normal faces we're used to seeing at the events, but also had one other first year who we'd never seen before turn up and managed to introduce them to society. So that was great. But again, I did rubbish in the quiz, so we don't need to focus too much on that event. But yeah, at the end of November, we had Neil's Movember fundraising. So I'll pass over to Neil to kind of give us a bit of background to the fundraising aspect for that.
Part of of course, the whole point of Movember is about raising awareness for men's health kind of generally, but especially mental health. And I think that everyone on committee has a similar kind of motivation to tackle, kind of the mental health crisis that is at universities and affecting students so greatly. Because despite that it might not be a job, studying has a lot of pressures. It's got a lot of time pressures, and also is a very measurable measurable way of your success is, getting good grades and stuff. So it is quite high pressured. And also a lot of students, of course, have jobs and stuff outside of it. So, men's mental health and mental health generally is such an important topic. And for that, I ran up the hill at the back of my house. I would like to say every day, but it wasn't every day. It was most days. But towards the end of November, the workload just getting kind of insane. But yeah, I'm happy that we raised over £200 for that. I think that means that all of our fundraising this year has been over £200, which since we, I think the most that we ever raised in last year was only £100. So it's quite a significant increase.
Yeah, and with your Movember funds, it actually takes the Society's fundraising efforts over the semester over a total of £1,000 for 3 months work, which is absolutely sensational, and credit to everyone who's been involved in raising such a magnificent amount of money for different charities, which I'm sure will go a long way. So moving on to the final event that we've had this semester, it was on the 4th of December, which was the Christmas social. It was great. I know I enjoyed it. There was a festive quiz involved. I didn't do too badly this time. Not great, but probably my best quiz performance of the year. It was a lot of fun. We had more karaoke from the two top dogs on the committee, which was always great to see. So does anyone have any positive reflections of that Christmas social?
I honestly I think the Fairy Tale in New York from Euan and Neil. Potentially a highlight of the semester for me. Loved it.
I think me and Neil have to reflect on some of the things we haven't done so well this year. And one of the main things that we have to admit is that we are both terrible at pub quizzes. So at the end of the day, having to do the forfeit karaoke, it's something I always like doing in person, but somehow it's even more humiliating because you have the lyrics up in front of you and you can't tell what people's reactions are behind, whether they're looking with boredom, whether they're laughing, or whether they're looking at you with a look of unrivaled contempt. Like it was a very fun social at the end of the day. I think Neil ended up losing overall. I think I managed to just edge him out, which I was pretty happy with. At the bottom of the table, but definitely room for improvement there. I know it was really fun. Everything, and especially the socials Claire has organised this year have been some of the things that have given me the most like levity from the entire COVID situation. Like you sometimes forget during those socials that the world around you is sort of quite mad. So yeah, I was really happy with that social. It was a great way to cap the year, and it was good to see all the faces I've become so sort of familiar with, even though I've still to meet a lot of you in person.
So yeah, I think we've spoken enough about the events we've had on. It's a pretty long podcast as it is, but it's to be expected with how many events we've had on. It's been very successful. I know from a personal point of view, it's been something that I've loved to be a part of, and I'm really looking forward to moving into next semester. I know personally I've got big plans for the podcast. I'm sure as a committee and as a society as a whole, we've got more events planned. We're also hoping to get Law Ball up and running at some point. So yeah, it's very exciting times to be part of society. I'm looking forward to pushing it even further. And personally, I would just like to wish everyone listening a happy Christmas. Stay safe. Enjoy your time with family as much as you can, if you're allowed to. It depends on what tier you're in. It's very confusing. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, then just enjoy a time off, de-stress, try to relax and recharge your batteries for the new year. And hopefully 2021 will be better. It's quite weird for me saying that 2020 was a bad year because I've done a lot of things that I'm proud of and really enjoyed doing. So it's quite a conflict of emotions. But yeah, I'll just hand over to each individual guest today to say goodbye and wish everyone a happy Christmas. So Euan, would you like to go first?
Yeah, thank you so much, Jedd. Firstly, well done on the podcast. It's been one of the highlights, I would say, of what we've managed to do this year. I'm really excited to see where it goes, and I'd just like to say to everybody, thanks for coming along to the society. It's been really fun. A lot of credit is due to a lot of the members who came this year, and also to everybody here. So cheers. Merry Christmas.
Cheers. Well, I have been referred to as Scrooge on the committee, but I will wish everyone a happy Christmas. One thing I would like to say just before we wrap up is, like Euan said, a big well done to Jedd for setting up the podcast. It really fits into the ideology of the society that we have going forward, and hopefully will continue, is this kind of long-term aim to build it to be a wee bit more than just a university society. We want to diversify and do things a little bit differently than other university societies do.
Yeah, just echoing on from what Euan and Neil have said, I think that this semester has been really great for the Law Society, and I think that if you're someone that's listening that maybe hasn't got involved with us before, I hope that listening to everything that we've done and all the things that we've achieved this semester might encourage you to get involved next term. And also, over the Christmas period, I think when this goes out, it might be on the third or fourth day of doing what we're doing, but me, myself and Claire, we've planned a kind of 12 days of tips for over Christmas for law students. So if you keep an eye out on our Facebook and Instagram page, we're going to be posting everyday things just to kind of try and keep yourself busy over the Christmas period. Also relax as well. So yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Perfect. I would like to thank the three of you for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed it. And yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone, and enjoy your time off. Thank you very much for listening to another episode of our podcast. If you like what you hear, please follow us on your podcast platform of choice to ensure that you never miss an upload. To keep up to date with us, you can follow our Instagram page, which is Stir Law Society. Additionally, our Twitter is @_Stir Law Society. In the meantime, it's goodbye from me, and I'll speak to you again very soon.